The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host, Macca 19. Joining me as always as co-host, we got Fishing Rick.
I'm Macca. I'm still upset.
Me too. I'm sad.
I need a cuddle.
Very sad. We cuddled enough at the game, mate.
I know.
I'm sad because this is the last game review podcast that we're doing.
Yeah, well, that's true, but, at least we've got a lot of optimism for next year, which is a good thing. And just quickly, I'll just want to say thanks for Matt Tarrant for getting the tickets and having the honour of sitting with the Tarrant crew. It was enjoyable meeting Don Draper and Rory and a few of the other lads. So we're putting some faces to the name, and I thought they were very hospitable. And for Boydie for inviting me over for a barbecue, I thought that was very generous of him as well. And it was great to have a bit of a footy chat with Boydie, the boy man. And lastly, apologies to Kevin and the other people that I was supposed to catch up with, and I ran out of time. But what an epic day!
Absolutely. And joining us back on the podcast again is HaroldOliver.
How's it going, guys? I'm pretty sad too.
Oh,
H.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be a depressing podcast, I think.
Yeah, I wept all my tears though.
Did you make wine from them?
It didn't taste too good.
Oh dear. Well, let's get straight into it. We'll do our love and hate. One thing we loved, one thing we hated in and around Port Adelaide this weekend. Rick, I'll start with you, buddy.
I loved our season, boys. I mean, what a journey. Ken Hinkley, the master, should be coach of the year if it hasn't been announced already. For what he's done. The boys have taken us supporters and the club as a whole on a fantastic journey. Who would have thought, what we would have created at Adelaide Oval, the crowds that have gone, the atmosphere, the performances that our players have delivered us for the bulk of the year. So, my love is the footy club and the team for 2014. Can't go past.
It's a great call. It is a great call. For me, it's been the most enjoyable season of football I think I've ever watched for Port Adelaide. All the other games across the AFL have been absolutely horrendous. But specifically for Port Adelaide, this has been my most enjoyable year of going to the footy.
It's 01 to 04, I went, but like a lot of Port supporters, and I think what created a bit of a divide with us and Choco, I didn't love his game plan, right? But I love Hinkley's philosophy to football. To me, it's got a very strong link to Port Adelaide, its past, its heritage. And, for me, this, even though we didn't win, it's been, right up there as one of the... It's taken me back to the 80s and 90s with how we played and dominated. And, I'm full of optimism for 2015 now.
It's a game plan that's easy to love, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. I think also I feel a lot closer to this group of players because they went through the hard times. They all stuck together, and now they're reaping the rewards of that loyalty, I think. Whereas with the 01 to 04 group of players, you just sort of knew that success was going to happen because of the whole startup squad and sort of seeking success that way. But with this group, I mean, there was definitely times a couple of years ago you thought, well, geez, are we ever going to have success again, sort of thing. But it's come around quickly, and I guess I feel a closer bond to this group than I did some of the others in the past.
Yeah, we've come from the lowest of depths, haven't we? The depths of despair in such a quick space of time. So,
well, it's probably the lowest point we've been at since probably 85.
Yeah.
Since 85, I mean, we've just been riding a high, and the first few years in the AFL, we had a bit of, we were competitive and we had a bit of leniency because, we were new in the competition. And, it's just, I don't know, the original squad that won the premiership, to me, it was almost a little bit mercenary. It was sort of like, oh yeah, we got our title, and then off we went, and sort of everyone went their own way. Yeah, and even off-field staff sort of went their own way, and they didn't really want to hang around for the long haul. It was just, we were that sort of stepping stone sort of club to go on to other clubs or just to be a foot in the door. Whereas now we seem to be a club where everyone just wants to be at, and and hats off to the players. They've really formed that new culture again at the club.
Yep. And what about your hate?
How do we say his name? You pronounce it for me. He's in the grand final this week.
Jasper Pittard. What?
Hey, he's in the grand final. Stevenage, isn't it? Whatever it is.
Matt Stevenage.
That bloody little Hawthorn sniper. I don't care. I mean, it might not have been the difference in our bad kicking, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly, but you know what? He really helped change the momentum in that second quarter. 9 free kicks out of a total of 10 were from one umpire to one team, and you could understand if they were all there. But you got that controversial: is it a holding the ball or is it a trip? I haven't even seen a replay of that Gunston free kick, but from what I've been told, it was pretty woeful. But I guess overall, if I took him aside, just the little inconsistencies in the umpiring. Jonas I think was very, very unlucky with a minute to go to get that holding the ball. He was standing up, getting the ball, and got taken down in the tackle to start with. Had no prior opportunity other than
he was on his back.
Yeah, well, that's right. But he was standing up, and he bent over to get it, and then he got rolled. So I mean, there was no prior opportunity, and he was just trying to get the ball. And I mean, is this what the game's coming to now, where players are now just sweating off, wanting someone else to get the ball so they can try and get holding the ball? I mean, if that's where we're going with the holding the ball rule and the game itself, there's something fundamentally wrong, because the whole ethos of football, I thought, was to try and reward and protect the ball winner and not penalise them. And then to get Brian Lake, who was on the ground, and jump on the ball and that be a ball up, to me, they're fundamental flaws. I mean, as we just said off air, Montfries was never going to kick the goal, even if it was a free kick. That was way out of his range, but it's still not the point.
Yeah.
They're obvious free kicks that everyone can see, and they should be paid, and the umpires. And the other bugbear was bloody Andrew Moore in that last quarter. I saw the replay. He got pinged for a throw. If it was a throw or not doesn't matter. The umpire was right behind him. There was no way that umpire would be able to tell whether he handballed it or threw it. And he's just guessed that it was a throw. Yeah. And you don't guess. If you don't know, you just let it play on. So it was, to me, in the end, it sort of spoilt the game a little bit, which was a magnificent spectacle, because it did come across a little bit biased, and we had our own issues outside of that. But overall, go get nicked, you cheating maggot.
That's the way. Now, Harold, your love and hate.
I'm a little bit the same as Rick. Despite the disappointing results, my love is the Port Adelaide Football Club. The improvement on and off the field of the past 2 years has been amazing, and I think we've built a brilliant foundation for future success. And look, we just have to, and I'm confident we will keep improving. And it's only by hard work will we really get what we really deserve. And we're going to have to recruit well, deepen the list, especially in regards to our ruck stocks. We'll have to continue to improve our systems. Like, for example, what really annoys me is our kick-ins. We've been deplorable this year with some of our kick-in strategies. And in the game against the Hawks, they scored 2 goals from their kick-ins, and we didn't score one at all. And next pre-season, our team has to work hard on getting better in all areas, get bigger and stronger. We have to be more composed and improve our decision-making, improve our tackling, disposal skills, and, of course, our goal kicking. And I think if we strive to build a base to best enable us not just to make the grand final, but next year let's just win the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
I said to Macca at the game, as the season got on, I actually felt more comfortable with Jasper taking the kick-ins than Broadbent. It seemed that Jasper's decision-making from the kick-ins started to improve exponentially greater than what Broadbent's was, and yeah, I thought Broadbent sort of got a little bit exploited with the kickings on the weekend.
And your hate, mate?
What, you hating anything? You're a hater?
I hate losing football games, particularly finals. And, there's no satisfaction from being one kick for a grand final for Port supporters. Our club exists to win premierships, and that's always going to be the ultimate criteria for judging whether our season is a success or not. And as Jasper so eloquently put it, we don't exist to come third, we exist to win premierships.
Yep. And
the other hate of mine as a result of the first hate is that there's going to be no Big Footy Port preview podcast to listen to on Friday morning.
No, we had some big plans, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did have some big plans.
We'll keep them for next year, Rick.
Yes, we will. Keep it a secret. Keep it safe.
So you, Macca?
My love was Gus Monfries having a big final. In fact, he had a pretty big final series, I thought. He was someone that was heavily criticised throughout the season. He didn't have a very good year in terms of getting some continuity going in his game. He had some good games early in the season, but his second half was a bit of a train wreck. But I thought he really came together in the final series. Had a good game against Richmond, a good game against Freo. And to kick 4 goals against Hawthorn, I thought was a fantastic effort. And, his last quarter almost got us over the line.
And what about that mark in the third quarter?
Oh, incredible. It was a great grab.
Yeah.
So gutsy.
Courage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And my hate is on a similar path to Harold's in losing 2 huge games by under a kick in the same weekend. Just horrible.
Yeah.
It was bad enough having to go to bloody Melbourne to watch us lose by a kick and all the emotions that went with that, and then to get back to leave Melbourne early to get to the SANFL Grand Final at half time and to see us lose by a kick again. Just not great. Not great at all.
That's football.
That's footy. That's it. Well, look, let's talk about the Brownlow. Any surprises there for you last night?
Yeah, Paddy D.
The winner? Patrick Dangerfield as well?
Well, I can accept Pritis doing what he did. Because, some of his stats sort of stacked up, but he's just one of those players. He's a workhorse, but does that mean he doesn't deserve to win? He was a workhorse in an underperforming side. So, history shows that sort of player can always do pretty well. I thought Paddy Dangerfield was grossly overrated by the umpires, which then leads to, I thought Jordan Lewis and Robbie Gray were really underrated in an insulting way. For both of those players by the umpires.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis deserved to be far further up the ladder than what he was. He got 15 votes, but I think 13 of them came in the last 5 rounds, so he came home with a bang. But yeah, he sort of went missing in the first half of the season in terms of the umpires. And look, I thought Matt Pritis is a very deserving winner. He's been a good to very good player for a number of years. He's been on the borderline of All-Australian a few times.
He's very consistent.
He's very, very consistent. And whilst people criticise him for his foot skills and he's slow as a wet week and all that sort of stuff, but he gets the ball, he's tough as nails, he wins clearances, he gets it forward. He's as good as any inside midfielder in the league, really.
And no one took votes off him.
Well, that's exactly right. Yep.
Whereas we had Melbourne players taking votes off of us.
Yes. Yeah, true. Well, look, Travis Boak was the best of our players with 21 votes. He had the chance to win it in the last round, but didn't score any votes. I'm not sure he was really expected to either, but it was great to see him up there in the count. Robbie Gray scored 14, so he was 12 behind the winner. Didn't deserve to be 12 behind, but I guess his season was one where it was always going to be tough for him to score Brownlow votes, if that makes any sense. Because I thought in the first half of the year, Robbie Gray was really consistent, but he was always that 3rd or 4th best player in the game, so he's always going to be just either just in or just out of the votes. And in the second half of the year, I thought probably his 3 best games came in losses. As we know, it's very hard to score votes in losses unless you're a Melbourne player.
I really think, though, he's a player you notice. Surely, I mean, anyone who loves the game loves the way he plays it, and his evasion through traffic. Surely he would have stuck out like a sore thumb. I would have thought, but.
Yeah, who knows? If Robbie Gray has a season as good as this one next year, I think he'll score a good sort of 25 votes.
I think the other one would be Hamish Hartlett. I thought he voted quite well.
Yep.
And he finished off the season. His last 2 months were impeccable. So if a Hamish Hartlett starts the season and continues in that form the whole way through, I think going by this year's form guide, he might be one that might accumulate a lot of votes quite quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's right.
Yeah, the bloody umpires, they effectively ignored Robbie, and why didn't they ignore him all year? Then Travis would have been our first Brownlow medalist.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mm.
Patrick Dangerfield was another one which was a bit of a surprise, as you said, Rick, but I guess he's always that type of player that's, he's super quick, he has these fantastic breakaway clearances, he can kick a good goal, and even if he doesn't do much, he normally does 2 or 3 recognisable, noticeable things which would probably stay in the umpire's mind a bit.
How good was Gary Ablett, though? Amazing.
Mm.
He would have annihilated if he played the whole season.
He would have got 35 votes or something. Yeah. He would have killed it.
Nat Fyfe would have been second, too.
Yep.
I would have thought.
Mm.
Yeah, well, a few people are forgetting that he was legitimately rubbed out at the end of the day, so the head clash became irrelevant. So,
true.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how bad that incident was anyway, the second one.
Probably the biggest surprise for me was Kane Corns getting 3 votes in the first showdown. Where on earth did that come from?
Indeed.
And what did he do?
But he had good figures. He had 33 touches and all that sort of stuff, but jeez. I mean, Hamish Hartlett didn't even get a vote.
The best link-up game ever in the history of AFL football. I'm sure, Kane's not a horrible bloke. I'm sure if you asked him and said, how did you get 3 votes against that Adelaide side in that game, he'd probably go, I don't know.
We got the power to win, power to roll, come on, for Adelaide aggression, we are the power from...
All right, well, look, let's go on to our AFL review. It was a pretty shattering result. We lost by 3 points to Hawthorn. It was the preliminary final played on Saturday evening. We lost 13 goals 17 to 15 goals 7. Gus Monfries, as we spoke about before, kicked 4 goals. Robbie Gray kicked 3. They were our multiple goal scorers. I guess like much of the second half of the season, it was a bit of an example of not taking your opportunities.
Yeah, we kicked a lot of points in the second half of the season, didn't we, in numerous games. And we really didn't seize the day. But what an awesome first quarter that we demonstrated. That's what we were talking about. We needed to come out firing if we were going to have any chance. And God, did we smash Hawthorn in that first quarter?
They were fumbling and, had disposal errors. They were not playing like Hawthorn at all.
No,
sure. We were hard at the ball and ferocious at the contest. And Bokey and Gray were leading by example. It was just a brilliant start. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, all the leaders stood up in that first quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. Schulze, how many disposals did he have?
Yeah, he was roaming the field like a rover. It was great.
He had 9 in the first quarter from memory. And, obviously, he was trying to probably suck either Brian Lake or Gibson up the ground, I would imagine, to try and create a bit of space and stop them doing their third man up.
Mm.
Yeah, we were getting the opportunities, but we just weren't nailing them.
That's right. Well, look, before we go too in-depth into the review itself, I want to get your experience of the game, first and foremost, or of the weekend as a whole. Harold, I'll start with you, mate. Did you go over for the game?
Yeah, we drove over, a group of us. It was we didn't leave till about 6:30 in the evening, so it was a pretty leisurely drive, and we didn't get to Caulfield until about, after 4 a.m.
Wow.
But we got this really big patch of fog in between Ararat and Bacchus Marsh, so that really slowed us down.
Yep.
But besides that, it was pretty uneventful. got hardly any sleep. And Saturday was a bit of a waste, mucking around trying to get Mikey tickets and getting misdirected, so we missed the march. So that was a real bummer. And then we made our way up to our seats in the Olympic stand, and probably about 5 rows from the back in enemy territory. Hardly a Port supporter near us, but fantastic view. And it was blowing a gale up there, so it was like braving Antarctic conditions. But so that was about it, as far as until the game started, which was absolutely magnificent.
Yep.
So how was the crowd from your perspective? Was it like from where we were? It was very noticeable that the Port crowd, but I don't know if it was just echoing where we were.
No. We were making a lot of noise. There is no doubt about it. And Macca and I were talking off air that it was a little bit disconcerting because, our cheer squad would rise and scream like anything every time we had a shot for goal, and then the ball would just veer off and you think, oh my God, we've scored another one. But no, we hadn't quite. Because I was right on the wing, so, view of the goals. But no, our crowd was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, I flew over Saturday morning, got up at 4 and took the 6 o'clock flight, got in and, same, worked out the Mikey cards or whatever, and took the train to Boydie's. Had chatted footy and finance with Boydie for a couple of hours, and as you know, I ventured over to Bell's. Probably left it a bit too late, really, because got there just at the end, and you guys were all tanked and stumbling and hugging each other already before the game started. And I was thinking, what have I got myself into here? And but then I missed Kev, who was there at Bell's, and someone else. I apologise, I can't even remember. Was it you, Harold, that was supposed to meet me at Bell's or something? I think it might have been you. We were supposed to meet
catch up at the march, but no, didn't get there.
And then I saw on Facebook all these other people I've got on Facebook that were at Bell's as well, and I didn't see any of them. So I probably it would have been nice to have got there a bit early, and I could have probably socialised with a few people. And but then we wandered to the MCG and sort of tacked on to the back of the march there, and it was inspirational seeing so many Port supporters there. And I think it's a bit of a fallacy that Port Adelaide doesn't draw big crowds and Port Adelaide doesn't have travelling supporters. So I think Saturday showed that we do, and should put that myth to bed. We're very loyal, and the game itself, I just thought the Hawthorn supporters were quite quiet and only wanted to cheer when Hawthorn got 4 goals up, and outside of that, it was just the Port cheering the whole game. And got to give our supporters credit; they're very passionate and create a great atmosphere. And it was just surreal just sitting there. I haven't been there for a while, just sitting around looking at pre-game, and it's an amazing stadium. Yep. It's a coliseum. That's how I describe it. Yeah. And the players played like gladiators. So it was the wrong result, but a great day.
Absolutely. I had just about one of the best weekends of my life. Even though we lost, it was just a fantastic weekend. We drove over with a group of 6. We drove over on Friday, arrived in Melbourne at midnight. A lot of memorable stories on that trip. We went to the Bells pub over lunchtime. That was fantastic. Heaps of Port people there. We did a bit of the march. Obviously, we watched the game. Went back to Bells pub after the game. Then I walked back to the accommodation. Got lost in the city. So a 45-minute walk took about an hour and a half. That was probably not so fantastic. But it did give me a great chance to come to terms with the result and find peace that we had lost the prelim final, I guess. And then a very early start the next day. We left at 6 a.m. To try and get back in time for the grand final, and was able to get there at half time of that one. But I agree, there must have been a good sort of 24,000 Port supporters at the ground. We were everywhere, and as you said, Rick, we were sitting next to each other, and the noise that was coming out from the Port supporters was just reverberating around the whole stadium, and I think it probably shocked the Hawthorn supporters a little bit, because they just weren't cheering much at all. It was only really after goals, and then it was just sort of like a quick cheer, and then 5 seconds later it was silent again.
Or ball.
Or ball, yeah, that was probably the other one. Yeah. But I thought our supporters were fantastic and almost wheeled the club across the line.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the game. As we said, we were all over them like a bit of a cheap suit in that first quarter, but we only kicked 3 goals, 9, and that's probably something that might haunt the club for a while, I guess. But
at the same time, Macca, I think it will create a bit of fire in the belly for the boys. I'm not one for saying I don't want to make a grand final. I always want to make a grand final.
For sure.
But I think 2007, and even if you look at the Demons in 2000, sometimes if you make the final at the wrong time, it can, and if you don't perform, which I don't think the boys would do though, it can set you back. So I think in a way, even though I'm disappointed we didn't make it, I think the fire in the belly and the work, that will just generate more inspiration for the boys going forward.
Yeah.
Because it's been a few days now since the game, everyone's commented and had a lot of insightful comments. I guess the one thing that I really took out of the game, outside of those cheating yellow maggots, is the fact that the difference of what a key forward makes to a footy side. And Jared Roughhead reamed us on Saturday.
He
what
was
a fantastic
incredible.
player.
He was incredible. He certainly didn't get a lot of the ball. It's at one stage there, I think he had 5 kicks for 4 goals. He got a lot of the ball late when he moved a bit further up the field, but he was the difference in the end. We just didn't have anything to stop him getting those sort of, and they were sort of cheap goals. I thought Carlisle did a bloody good job on him, but he just kept finding space over the back. The ball would go at the back and he'd sort of soccer through another goal, and you thought, oh, here we go again.
The thing was, he just didn't miss.
No, well,
set shots.
That was Hawthorn as a whole. 15 goals, 7.
Yeah.
And they were kicking them from everywhere. They had a number of shots from sort of 40 to 55 metres out on all sorts of angles, and they were just going straight through the middle.
But isn't that the experience of playing regularly at the MCG compared to once a year?
Doubt. No doubt. They're a finals hardened side as well, so they would have been able to deal with that sort of pressure. And look, you go through goal kicking through the second half of the year, as you said, and it's not a great story. We've had a 10 goals 16, a 7 goals 18, 7 goals 16, 7 goals 14, 20 goals 20, and a 13 goals 16. So it's something that the team really needs to improve on over summer, I think.
Well, I think we just need to improve on our forward structure and where we want to deliver the ball. A lot of the time we're getting forced very deep into the pockets, which obviously make the percentage chance of conversion a lot less.
Yep.
We did miss some sitters. Ollie Wines missed one, Brett Ebert missed one, Matt Lobe missed one, just off the top of my head. But there was also a lot of difficult shots as well. And, we can't keep relying on like the Wingard snaps, which was an amazing goal in the last. But, you can't rely on that. So you need to have that good delivery. That's where Sydney's so fantastic now with Tippett and Franklin. What do? They deliver it long to 10 metres out.
Yep.
and try and hit up their tall targets. And we seem to lack a little bit of confidence, obviously, because we don't have the same sort of forwards to deliver the balls into those spots. But, so that's what we need to work on.
That's it.
It's strange, I've criticised in the past Robbie Gray and Westhoff, but they didn't miss the clutch goals in this game.
No.
Other players.
Or Montford.
No, well, that's right. We spoke about it, Rick, during the third quarter when Robbie Gray, Justin Westhoff, and Angus Monfries all kicked clutch goals, clutch set shots, which they've all struggled with at times throughout the year. And it was great to see them really stand up under that sort of pressure in a big game.
The other thing to take out of it, if we're talking about big game players, I thought Ken's move, which I sort of noticed at the start of the last quarter, putting Wingard onto the half-back flank, opening up our forward line and playing with 5 forwards, giving us that extra defender to try and create the rebound run. I thought it was another masterstroke by Ken with his coaching. And obviously, as we know, it almost resulted in us winning the game. But it turned. I'm not too critical of Chad for being quiet in the first 3 quarters because the ball wasn't really going to him in a way. So he was there, but it just didn't go his way. And but he really fought his way in the last and really provided that hardness at the ball and the run and I thought he was fantastic in that last quarter.
He was, yep.
Yeah, well, it was interesting what you're saying about that move of putting your Wingard on the half-back flank. Did you notice on, the very last ball up, at the centre ball up of the game, and it was like, all our players are lined up on that half-back line of the centre square, and it's like the charge of the Light Brigade, and we nearly pulled it off. It only just went astray. Wingard and all of them were streaming forward, and we just didn't quite get there.
Yep.
Mm.
No, that's right. So how are you feeling through the second and third quarters? It did look like we'd blown our chance a little bit at quarter time. And whilst Hawthorn started to get on top, I thought we did enough to keep in touch.
It was definitely like that. I felt exactly like that at the end of the first quarter. It was like, oh, we've blown it. I mean, but we still had the momentum until, Rick's mate Stevic, found a free 100 metres off the ball, and then, they got another little bit of luck with Pollock's instinctive knock of the ball out of Geray's hand and 50 metre, and they just didn't miss. That was the trouble.
Yeah.
We were still fighting. And then their clearances, and they started dominating the clearances, and their disposal efficiency and contested possession game lifted substantially, didn't it?
I did.
Well, they dominated the third. Umpires or not, you can't take away their third quarter. Was a magnificent. That was a magnificent third quarter. I actually thought we broke even in the second, and I thought we still had momentum of the game. And even though I thought the umpiring decisions was sort of trying to swing it away from us, and Hawthorn was able to seize the opportunities and take the momentum that was sort of gifted to us. They really took control in the third, but they always kept fighting back. They would get to that 4-goal margin, we'd kick a goal. We always were fighting to keep in touch, even no matter how dominant Hawthorn was becoming around the clearances, and especially the centre clearances. And again, Macca, that's probably going to be something we're going to have to work on this season, the centre clearances.
Absolutely. Yep. A genuine second ruckman would certainly help in that regard.
Yeah, It's hard to criticise Lodi, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you can't.
You can tell he's just been battered and bruised all year, and he was quite fatigued. But he had a pretty good game, I thought, as well.
Yeah.
And he took a mark inside forward 50.
He did, yes.
Impressive. I was going off.
Unbelievable.
Like, what's going on here?
I needed a defibrillator to awaken me after that.
If only he could have delivered.
Exactly.
But I thought watching the replay, I thought Ali Paddy Carlisle had a fantastic game. And you're right, Macca. Ruffy kicked some goals, but Ali Paddy, he was rock solid down there.
Yep.
And he committed his body to the contest. And another one that we talked about during the game that was committing his body to the contest was Matthew Broadbent. He didn't shirk a contest, and for every hard ball, he just put his body on the line, and he got hit a few times, but he just kept going back, and he won a few important clearances throughout the game.
Yep. I thought he was our best on ground, Matty Broadbent, which I'm not sure many people would have seen it that way, but as you said, I thought his attack at the ball, he just went 100% at it. Didn't matter what was coming the other way, what was hitting him from the side. He made the ball his objective, and 9 times out of 10 he was winning it.
I mean, it's hard to fault many of our players. The defence were fantastic, I thought.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really played a poor game. It was just everyone left it all out on the park.
Well, if you think back to 2013, what was one of our weaknesses? We disappeared in too many games for too long a period of time, and we couldn't stop momentum, even though we did improve. And so when we take it through to 2014, we were really able to reduce those run-ons, except for that 9-goal run from Freo. But we reduced the time out of the game that we weren't influencing the game, and we were able to control games for a longer period of time, which I guess is coming with maturity. So again, though, we did drop off for a quarter and a half, and even if umpires do work against us, we need to be mature enough to still be able to keep ourselves in the game, in the contest. And so we're making progression, but that's the next stage of our evolution as a footy team, to be able to even break that down where we lose momentum. And that's where Hawthorn and Sydney are fantastic bloody football sides, because they might only lose momentum for 5 or 10 minutes in a game, most games. Yep. Otherwise it's either neutral or in their advantage. And so that's what our boys have got to keep working to.
But you're right, we kept in the game. If we were within 3 goals at three-quarter time, we would have won that. It's just that one extra goal killed us.
It did, yeah. Well, let's talk about the comeback. Obviously, it looked like Hawthorn had it won, sort of around halfway through that final quarter. Then Monfrey's got, I guess, a little bit of a cheap one with a free kick there. Kicked the goal. Took the margin back to around about 28 points. Did you think at that moment that we were a bit of a chance, I guess?
I think not at that moment. I suppose I thought we were a chance. You always do. But
yep.
I think when we, Gray rode that goal from Wingard's mark in between 2 players, and then Wingard kicks that beautiful check side, then I thought we were a chance for sure.
Yeah,
game on.
That was probably the moment for me when Wingard kicked that miraculous goal from the boundary. That was the point where I think 3 goals. There's probably about 7 or 8 minutes left. Still a big chance of winning this game.
Yeah, there's plenty of time.
There was, yeah.
Oh, and then I became the unofficial timekeeper as my phone got barraged.
You did.
With time updates. 3 minutes, 2 minutes 30. Oh, look, we got. That's where we got the momentum back. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to reduce the time. But yeah, look, Wingard was instrumental running off the half-back line. He had a massive last quarter. If you took it on the last quarter, you'd probably give him best on ground. Monfries was just loose. They were just letting him run loose in the forward line pretty much the whole time in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Well, they were trying to stop everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about that beautiful passage of play? They ended up with the Wingard's pass to Monfries. It was just beautiful poetry in motion, some of that.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Great pressure teamwork.
What about the controversial play on by Brad Ebert, which is easy to analyse in hindsight compared to in the action, under pressure. But
as you know, Rick, we were right there. That was right in front of us, I guess you could say. And at the time, I was absolutely spewing because he had a look and he chose to go. It got smothered. Free kick against. And at the time, it was like, oh, well, that's the game right there and then. But in retrospect, I think it was probably the right decision to make, to do that move. He had a quick look. He saw both, I think it was Schultz and Wingard free in front of their men. If he had have got it over Hodge or whoever spoiled that bowl, we would have taken that mark and arguably kicked a goal and put us in front. So I think in retrospect, it was the right decision to make.
Yeah, I thought at the time that, why don't you steady and have a shot? But he was too far out.
He was probably about 60 out. But
yeah. I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I guess in hindsight, probably the execution of his play on, he probably should have sold Hodge the dummy or the balk. Tried to balk him, and he probably would have given the space because Hodge was, as he said post game, knackered. But I mean, Hodge is a great player, so I mean, he could have. Sliding doors, he could have tried the balk and Hodge might have picked that too. I mean, he's a fantastic player, Luke Hodge, reads the play well. So, I mean, if it was probably the other 17 players on the ground, he probably would have got his kick off, But, I mean, you had to. I mean, he didn't know. He might have, for all he knew, there was 10 seconds left.
Yeah, well, that's right. It was pretty late in the game. It was, probably around about the 29-minute mark at that point. you would have been right in saying that players would have been thinking there wasn't much time left at all. But I think the moment for me, which I thought proved costly, was Andrew Moore taking a clearance out of the centre. He had a mile of space in front of him, and he seemed to get a little bit confused as to what to do, whether he should have had a shot or taken a pass. He ended up sort of doing this mid-range chip to no one in particular, and it was just chipped off easily by a Hawthorn player. And that was probably the moment where you thought, well, if he had have had a bounce and had a shot, could have gone in, it could have won us the game. And I'm not suggesting that Andrew Moore lost us the game when I'm saying that. I'm saying that was probably more of a critical moment than Ebert's play on.
Yeah, it's hard to be critical, isn't it? None of those instances cost us the game, really.
No. In games like that, I don't think anything cost us the game. I mean, people are sort of saying, well, Moore should have gone back and kicked that goal from the boundary, but that was a bloody tough kick. If he had have kicked that, he would go down in Port Adelaide folklore just like Scotty Hodges did in the 96 prelim.
I had a thought.
That tough a kick.
It was.
I had a thought though when I was watching the replay. I was listening to BT commentating on a couple of the shots on goal. Who obviously he's played a fair few games at MCG. It wouldn't have hurt the club maybe to have got a local native and someone like BT probably with his ego and and getting a bit of profile probably would have come out. But maybe the day before, just having someone with a lot of local knowledge coming out and just giving the boys a few tips on how to kick at the MCG probably wouldn't have hurt.
Look, let's talk about our best players.
Yeah, tough one. Everyone was fantastic, really. No one really had a down game. I thought they all tried hard. I probably had Travis up there, our captain. I thought he, magnificent performance. I would have had Matty Broadbent second best on ground. I thought he was trying to be is an inspirational halfback flanker for us and put his body on the line numerous times, as a few players did. Alapati Carlisle, I'll actually give third best on ground because I thought he was Herculean down back. We had Trengove go off, Homch went off, but he kept putting his body on the line and he kept trying to get the ball and he was trying to sweep it out. Angus Monfries, get him in the players, and then there's a whole host. Hamish Hartlett, I thought he had a respectable game as well.
Yep,
especially early.
Harold?
Yeah, I couldn't separate Robbie or Travis for best. Gray was at his elusive best, and anyone who didn't know he was elite beforehand knew that he was after that game. Heap of disposals and score involvements, and whether it was in the middle or isolated up forward, it was fantastic. Travis, despite being heavily tagged, played a great captain's game. He almost willed us over the line there. And as Ken said, he's a young captain, and he's just going to get better. I really liked Tommy Jonas's game. I thought it was brilliant defensive work. Shutting down players the calibre of Bruce was fantastic, and loved his intercept and contested marking. That pass in the second quarter to Schulz that went about 50 metres was beautiful. And, he had 92% efficiency or something like that with his disposals. So I really loved his game. Had to include Angus for putting aside the whole Asada hearing distractions and 4 goals. One of the few players who made the most of their scoring opportunities and did a good job on Birchall. And like I said before, that courageous mark in the third quarter was brilliant. I think he saved his best game of the season for the biggest game of the year. And as Rick said, you could throw a blanket over a whole group of players like Hartlett, Westhoff, Homch, Broadbent and Carlisle. But I liked Jared Pollock's game. I thought it was pretty consistent game over 4 quarters. And we have to mention that goal he kicked in the last quarter.
Oh, it was a ripper.
It was sensational. Really sensational.
It's a goal. It's a goal.
It is.
It's a goal. We were laughing our heads off on Sunday. It's a goal. I actually don't mind BT as a commentator.
And just imagine what it's going to be like next year. Jared, another pre-season.
He'll be great. Yep. He had a very good final series, so that was good. Again, similar to Monfries, he had a bit of a criticised second half of the year. So for him to to come good at the right time of the season was fantastic, I thought, as well. My top 5, I had Brody best on ground. I thought he had a fantastic game. Was near about unpassable back there across the half-back line. Really set up a lot of our score involvements, I thought. Travis Boak, our fantastic captain, just had a wonderful game on the weekend as well. Kicked a great goal, had a number of tackles, and led from the front in the middle. Robbie Gray, I mean, geez, he just gets huge numbers every week now. 25 touches and 3 goals. He's been getting those sort of figures for the last couple of months of the year, and he's arguably been our best on ground in the last 7 or 8 games, such as his consistency of performance there. Gus Monfries is 4th best. He's 4 goals, and his last quarter nearly won us the game. And a big shout out and 5th best on ground to Jasper Pittard. I thought he had a great game.
Jasper, what a legend.
I thought he was really, really good, really cool under pressure. And defensively, he was doing a lot of hard stuff, winning a lot of contested ball, and laying some pretty neat tackles as well, I thought.
He had a good final series.
He did, very good.
Just what I was going to say. He's a pretty good finals player.
Yeah. And if you're talking about players quickly, what about some of the passes that Harlot did in the first half?
Oh, incredible.
So, some of those passes that he just delivered, pinpoint accuracy, amazing.
That's why they clamped down on him.
That's right. Well, look,
I'd just like to just say one thing, that our whole finals the last 2 years, we've really performed well on every single one of them, and that's why I don't think our players will drop off. It's not going to be like a post 2007 or anything. They're going to work harder and get better.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
I don't think Ken will let them drop off.
No.
To be honest, or Burgess.
They won't let them themselves.
No, but even if they wanted to, I think those 2 coaches would be right into them. I just can't see it. And as I was trying to explain on the board yesterday, I just think that with our age demographic of the players, nearly the bulk of our side has percentage increases available in improvement in their performance. There's probably only 4 players on our list where they're probably at an age where they're capped to what their improvement can be. Even Robbie Gray and Travis Boak, I think, can improve by now delivering at a more regular, consistent approach to their games compared to the past. So even those boys can improve even more. So when you think that there's so much improvement and they're coming up against teams like Sydney and Hawthorn, which are almost at their growth, especially with their peak players, their ceiling, we should be able to pass those if they work hard and keep their focus.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white, honour the Magpies day and by night, live that.
Alright, on to the SANFL. Of course, it was the grand final on Sunday at Adelaide Oval. It was Port Adelaide versus Norwood. A very disappointing result. We lost by 4 points, 11 goals 12 to 12 goals 10. How did we see this one? Did any of you two see the game? Or get to the game, sorry.
No, I didn't. I listened to it on the radio on the way back from Melbourne.
Yep.
I got home pretty late in the morning, and so decided to watch it on TV. But I thought it was quite ironic that it's the highest grand final crowd since Port Adelaide last was in a SANFL grand final, and there's so many people that are happy to try and bastardise and get rid of the Port Adelaide representation in the SANFL, but they're sort of cutting off their nose to spite their own face in a way.
I think if you were to ask the SANFL what their ultimate season would be, it would be if crowds were up, Port and the Crows have a good year, probably Port in the grand final, but they don't win it. So I think they got their wish there, because the crowds are up. Money's obviously going to be up. Big, huge crowd in the grand final. The 2 traditional teams, Port versus Norwood, and Norwood win. So the state's favourites got over the line. It was a pretty interesting game. We looked absolutely shot in that first quarter. Norwood kicked the first 5 goals of the game. It was bringing back memories of 20 years ago. But we came back pretty well in that second quarter and got a bit of a consistent run on ourselves, kicked 5 goals for the quarter. And we were back in the game, 7 points in it at half time.
I thought Norwood were just a little bit cleaner than us for the bulk of the game.
Yeah.
They used the ball a little bit smarter and were more efficient with it, and we were a little bit wasteful. And especially in that last quarter, we really missed our targets and didn't execute that well at all. And that ended up really ultimately being the difference between the two sides.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that we got as close as we did, to be honest, because you look at the stats and we got absolutely pounded. We lost the hit out 64-28. We lost the clearances 45-33. They had 21 more inside 50s than we did. They had a lot more of the ball, but we nearly came away with the win.
No, it's a great effort, really. Against the odds, I mean, everyone goes on about, there's 19 AFL players, but I watched the replay, yesterday, and it's like boys against men, some of them.
Yeah.
Some of the contests. And I think that's what got them over the line in the end. They were just, contest after contest, and we just couldn't break through, what Norwood do so well, just defend and play crap football.
It certainly was sort of goal for goal in the second half there. And look, Norwood had a big chance at the start of the last quarter to put the game away. I thought they controlled the first 15 minutes of that quarter. They played the game almost solely in their forward 50, but our defence, and particularly led by Daniel Flynn of all people, stood up incredibly well. Flinny had some absolute magic moments in that last quarter.
Because he was terrible in the other finals games, but he was so impressive in this one.
Yeah,
under
absolutely.
the utmost pressure. He didn't get caught either, did he?
No. He was running it out. He had some great spoils, some great tackles. He had a fantastic game. One of his best games for the year. So that's I think that's a fantastic sign, him doing that in such a big game like a grand final. But of course we got our chance. Cracker kicked his third goal from
Beautiful.
deep on the boundary, a fantastic shot. And suddenly we had a bit of momentum, but just like the day before, we just couldn't get it over the line.
No.
Sammy Gray had a shot, which sort of went across the face. I think Samo had a shot which, he probably should have nailed, but it was a pretty tough shot. And of course the siren went as the ball was flying into the forward 50 again.
So how did you see some of our key backup AFL listed players in the game?
Close to AFL selection, do you mean?
Yeah.
Look, I thought Kane Mitchell...
Ben Newton, Kane Mitchell, Aaron Young, those type of players.
Yeah, I thought Kane Mitchell was our best player, and if we had have won, I thought he would have won the medal, the Jack Odie medal. Newton was okay, just okay. I thought he was a little bit sloppy. Aaron Young had a very good game. Paul Stewart was very disappointing. Ever since he signed that 2-year contract, he's played about one good quarter of football, which is disturbing. Cam Hitchcock wasn't too bad, and that's about it really for those guys sort of close. I thought Logan was very disappointing for someone that's had some huge figures throughout the year. He just couldn't get near the ball at all.
Yeah, Stevenson was okay. Had a few moments, but a bit wasteful at times as well.
Yeah,
so.
I thought he was really good when it mattered in that last quarter. Again, similar to Flynn, he made some really good spoils and laid some hard tackles, that sort of thing. Carl Amon wasn't too bad, I thought.
Fleury was a bit better because his final series has been shocking as well. But
I thought he was really disappointing.
On Sunday.
Yeah, I think having watched his final series, you can tell why he didn't get games when we were without Carlisle and Trengove.
It was obviously prelim.
Not necessarily disposal. He's just very slow off the mark and just doesn't seem to have his head in the game for long enough periods of time and allows his direct opponent to find some space and mark inside 50. And it's happened regularly throughout that sort of last 2 months of the season. So I think you can really tell why he didn't get an opportunity, which looked like he should have got. So I think that's definitely something that he needs to work on in the off season is finding that yard of extra pace and making sure mentally that he's switched on for 100% of the game.
And where were you sitting,
Was
Macca?
I was standing in the members area, probably on the 50-metre mark, just under the chapel stand sign. That's where I was.
Did you have a good view of Sam Russell's goal in the first quarter?
No, I was still in a car at that point.
Oh, okay. You weren't there.
I don't reckon it was a goal.
Well, on the replay, it looked like it.
Nah, probably went over the post. The umpire was right there.
Yeah, well, he was.
Yeah, don't listen to Timmy G. He's just trying to suck us in.
No, it certainly
He was a
looked
bit
like a goal.
biased.
I'm biased too. I'm very.
I thought Benny Newton was a little bit disappointing for mine.
Yeah.
I
He got a
thought
lot
he
of
was
clearances and stuff, but
just burnt it.
wasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasted it.
Yeah, obviously you needed for the quality of player that we expect him to be. He needs to use the ball a lot better than that. And I guess I still got the same question mark with Aaron Young. He's almost there, but it's just not enough at the same time.
Yeah.
And he needs to now be really dominating at this level. He needs to be like the Nick Stevens when he's coming through Glenelg and Travis Boak, even though those boys were doing it in their first year. He needs to be taking these games every week and getting 30 plus possessions and just dominating. And he's got the attributes to do it. I mean, he had some great explosive runs on the weekend and really cut through the pack and was able to break the tackles, but then he just disappears.
Yeah.
He's had a bit of an interrupted year too, hasn't he?
So how did we
But
see Johnny Butcher's game?
I liked his marking.
Hmm.
I thought he looked very solid with his marking.
Yeah, on a few occasions. He does still run under the ball.
Well, maybe he needs to come from the half back line and run towards the ball more.
I don't know. I thought his contested marking was a highlight, probably the only highlight. I thought, again, his positioning is horrendous. His ability to move for players further downfield to give an option to lead hard, he just doesn't do it at all. Like, he just stands there, waits for a big long high kick to try and take a grab. If that doesn't happen, then he doesn't win the ball. Simple as that. So I was incredibly disappointed with this game on the weekend.
Do you think maybe he's still carrying an injury of some sort?
Look, it was his first game back for a month or so maybe. But there was a few times where I thought players were almost pleading with him to just lead, just move. There was a couple of times where I think Paul Stewart was getting pretty aggro, just sort of, waving his arms around, just move forward, give me something to kick to. And there was one time where I think we ended up goaling in the third quarter, where we were running it along the outer wing. And Butcher had miles of space to run. If he had have run hard, he could have taken an uncontested mark 20 metres out, dead in front, kicked a goal, got his confidence up. But he was just jogging along and didn't get anywhere near the ball. And we ended up kicking a goal anyway. But it could have been so much easier if he had ran harder and presented himself. And I think that's probably the main part of his game, which I'm really disappointed at the moment. His defensive ability inside that forward 50 is very good. But we don't want a 198 centimetre sheepdog, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing.
The one that was noticeable for me on the TV, and I know I get a bit of bashing for the Arch love as well, but what I noticed with Brendan on Sunday's game, he seems to have really picked up his twitch fibres, so to speak. He looked very quick, with the ball, getting the ball, the movement, sort of expecting the play. So to me, it looks like he's really advancing through the progression of levels and he's sort of taking himself now to that next level between SANFL and AFL. So I'm really hopeful that he can probably get at least a 1-year contract with Port, and I'll be really keen to see what he can do next year, because he does seem to now be taking his pace of the game up to another level now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw it that way.
He's certainly had a good second half of the year.
Yes. Yep.
Of what I've seen.
All right. Well, what a fantastic season. Disappointing end. But I think a lot to look forward to at both AFL and SANFL level next year.
Can't wait.
Hurry up, summer. Let's just bypass cricket season and go straight back to round one.
I'm so excited to be looking at the rumour and draft thread for the next month. It's going to be overwhelming.
That's it.
Just imagine if we got Paddy Ryder.
He really is the missing piece of the puzzle, I think. If we had him on the weekend, then we probably would have won, to be honest. But
are we going to talk about Sam Day every postseason? Is that rumour coming up every year?
I think so. It's probably like the green rumour that comes up every year.
I feel like it's Groundhog Day.
And the Alan Didak rumour that came up every year.
well, that one's buried. Sure.
That one's buried. We will be dropping back... Yeah, next week. We will be dropping back to one podcast a week from now on, now that the season's over. Just to stretch it out a little bit, and so we've got some things to talk about throughout the rest of the season. Or throughout the rest of the year, I guess. Well. And a bit of a life, yep, that'd be great. The wife will get to see me again, so she'll be happy about that, maybe.
Yes.
Probably not, but that's okay. Well,
yeah,
boys,
I'd like to thank you two guys too for the fantastic job you do with the podcast and everything. It's really enjoyable.
Look, we talk like that. You're welcome back at any time.
Oh no, not for that reason. You guys, you fantastic job, and I love all the guests that you get on as well. So
yeah, look, we love doing it. It's great fun. Really is great.
Absolutely. And hopefully I might be able to. Tim said he'd come back on and talk about history a bit, so I'll try and when he's hitting me up for money, I'll hit him up for a bit more time on the podcast, and hopefully we might be able to get a couple of players on as well. Fingers crossed. So we'll see what we can do.
That's it. Well, boys, until next time, go Port
Pleasure.
Adelaide.
Go Port Adelaide Footy Club.
Spears an inside 50. Schultz comes hard, flicks it out. Boats get to be appropriate. The captain, that is gold class. Leadership agrees with Travis Boat. He's better than ever.